Once you stop moving, you start dying. All of these things, which are referred to as hacks, are useless if you haven't. Longevity is nothing. What gives life meaning is
Who are you and what the hell are you doing here?
That's a good question. Mark Sisson, and I've been various and sundry athlete, entrepreneur, health researcher, advisor, author, you name it, but mostly around the health space for the last 40 years.
Wow. I feel like you're holding back. I mean, you look like a fucking boss. When you walked in here, man, the presence, the stature, like your posture, everything. I love talking to people like you because you've seen it all. You know what works and you know what doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I think I do. I mean, I have strong opinions on what works and what doesn't.
I mean, is it biohacking meets ancestral health?
Well, that's a good question right off the bat. Biohacking. Like, I'm the original anti-biohacker. Like, I was just realizing that 20 years ago, I wrote my first blog post called A Case Against Cardio. It was sort of looking at running as not being very good for most people who engage in it. That received such a overwhelming response that I wound up creating my own blog as a result of it, called Mark's Daily Apple, which became one of the top health blogs in the ancestral health space. One of the first ones too.
I mean, can you answer that question? Why is running?
Yeah, no, I mean, most people, the only people who should be running are runners, like skinny, ectomorphic, big lungs, large capacity for pain, good form. Everyone else should probably be walking. In fact, I just have a new book out called Born to Walk, and it trashes the running boom of the last 50 years as having been wholly inappropriate for all but 3 or 4% of the population.
But why specifically? Because you're destroying joints?
Because people, we're not born to run. We're born to be able to run as a result of a lot of walking and a little bit of sprinting.
Tell that to Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, well, oh, see? But we're born to be able to walk. We're bipedal. Our bodies crave walking. We're supposed to be walking. Our genes want us to walk, whether it's, just to move around, to improve digestion, to improve mood, to move lymph through the body as a result of the not having a pump system that moves lymph through. So our bodies want us to walk. That's clear. That's our quintessential human movement. We're able to run if we're lean enough and we have good running form. But understand that ancestrally, we only ran barefoot. I mean, we were barefoot for 2.5 million years of human evolution, and only in the last 4,000 years have we even had any type of footwear. When you run barefoot, you run with good form, so you're not heel smashing, you're not doing all of the negative things that you do with thick padded cushion running shoes that now allow people who shouldn't be running to go out and put in the miles thinking they're doing themselves a favor. But most people are not. Most people are running at a heart rate that's too high to be burning fat efficiently. So the one thing they're trying to do when they run is to burn fat and think that they're melting the fat off with all the sweat and all the work and all the struggle and suffer that they have, when in fact, they're probably running at too high a heart rate, and what that's doing is causing a stress on the body, which causes a release of cortisol. Cortisol is not something you want in large quantities on a chronic basis in the body. But so many people think, oh my God, it's valuable because I did this hard workout and I'm tired. It must be working for me. And over time, we find people get burned out. They don't lose the weight that they can think they're going to lose. They get injured. 50% of all runners are injured every year. Like, that's worse than the NFL.
Yeah.
Again, as a long-winded answer to why I wrote that first post, why people shouldn't be running, that was sort of the impetus for all of that.
Well, I don't like to run, so I'm glad I don't have to.
This is the big thing about the book. It's given everybody who was on the fence permission to not run anymore.
Yeah. So is VO2 max bullshit then?
No, it's not bullshit at all. But it's been, I think, once again, sort of overhyped in the anti-aging community and in the biohacking community as, the golden metric for longevity. It's one metric. When we look at VO2 max and we say, well, like somebody like Peter Attia would say, if you're in the top 2% of VO2 max, you have a 400%.
You live forever.
You live forever, essentially. Certainly longer than the bottom 25%. So does everyone then aspire to get in the top 2%? Well, if you get in the top 2% of VO2 max, you're basically, understand that VO2 max is calculated as milliliters per kilogram of body weight. So to get in the top 2%, you have to have a low body weight, which means you're probably sacrificing muscle mass. Dude, as you get older, muscle mass becomes another defining metric of longevity. So when I look at VO2 max as one of the metrics, I also look at muscle, its strength, grip strength, Balance. How long can I stand on one foot with my arms crossed and my eyes closed? How long can I hang from a bar, dead hang from a bar with my body weight? How much of my body weight percentage of my body weight can I deadlift? How many push-ups can I do? How fast can I run a mile? All of these things are what comprise a healthy individual and will confer longevity. So if you just choose VO2 max as your single metric, you're giving up, you're leaving a lot of stuff on the table.
So I want to know, how do I look like you? I mean, you look amazing. You look like you have muscle mass, right?
Yeah.
So what's going?
So I was a runner. That's much of my experience. Much of my experience comes from having been a runner and having quit. So I haven't run a mile in 30 years. So I'll be
Congratulations.
thanks. I mean, no, literally, I'll be 72 in July.
Wow.
So when I stopped running, I started accruing muscle. I started living. I started enjoying my life. Look,
Yeah.
the other thing about running is it's not a fun experience. Most runners are managing discomfort the entire run. Everybody says that, oh, I love running. It's fun. No, it's not fun, and you know it. You may be listening to Metallica in your headphones and
Yeah.
getting lost on the ozone, but it's not fun. So don't sell me on that. So when I gave up running, I realized that running is catabolic. It tears down muscle tissue. So as much as I went to the gym and lifted weights as a young man, I couldn't keep weight on. I weigh 172 now. I raced at 140. So I weigh 32 pounds more now than when I was a runner. Same height, same body fat. So that's all the muscle that I didn't keep as a result of this catabolic nature of running. So um, to answer your question, what do I do? So number one, 80% of your body composition happens as a result of your dietary choices. So you can't out-exercise a bad diet. And when you do achieve what we call metabolic flexibility, the ability to burn fat at rest, when you're working out most of the time, and you derive most of your energy from fat under any context, it frees you up to burn off stored body fat whenever you don't eat. And when you become metabolically flexible, now hunger and appetite and cravings disappear. You almost have to remind yourself to eat because you're so efficient at burning your own stored body fat. This is something that still isn't emphasized enough by this anti-aging community, right? I see people take all of there's the GLP-1s and all of the pills and potions and stuff they take and all of the cold plunging to activate brown fat and all this other stuff. No, it's all happening through diet if you do it right. And there's a way to do that. Now, it takes some work. Certainly, it takes some discipline, but once you go through that initial phase and you reorient your body to upregulate the enzymes that take fat out of storage, you build a metabolic machinery to burn fat, you increase mitochondrial biogenesis. Um, you hit this point where you will trend toward your ideal body composition. So that's part number one. Part number two is once you do that, you don't have to work hard to have good lean muscle mass, to be strong and powerful. You don't have to go to the gym every day. Twice a week is all you need to do to go to the gym, lift weights, lift heavy, lift well, and then recover in between the workouts. You got to do the work, but then you got to give yourself rest and nutrition to recover and either build or maintain that muscle mass. So it's not rocket science. It becomes this minimum effective dose of what do I need to be strong and lean and fit and happy and healthy and productive with the least amount of pain and suffering and sacrifice and all the other stuff. And that's the sweet spot that I discovered about 30 years ago. So I've spent my career uncovering these hidden genetic switches that we all have and advising people on exactly how you can access this.
So is it more about switches and supplementing hormones and other supplements or whatever?
Yeah, I don't supplement
Really?
much at all.
Wow.
I mean, I take collagen because I think it's a macronutrient that's missing from most people's diet. I take a little bit of vitamin D because I spend a lot of time out in the sun and I don't convert it well. But for the most part, um, this is old tech, man. This is true ancestral health. This goes back to patterning after what our ancestors did in the 2.5 million years of human existence to create this recipe that we have today in front of us that wants us to be lean and fit, but we thwart at every turn with whether it's bad food, whether it's sedentary behavior, whether it's staying up late and not getting enough sleep, whether it's not getting enough sunlight or enough play, or whether it's wearing thick cushioned shoes and negating all of the haptic input that our feet require in order for us to have a balanced gait and to be able to walk and not run,
Yeah.
throughout life.
So you're telling me I can be like you?
Yes, 100%.
What about somebody looks and says, "Well, he's just genetically optimized." Like,
Um,
or he
not only am
beat the DNA lotto,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
say.
Not only am I not genetically optimized, I'm an ectomorph. So I'm one of the guys who could have been a runner. I finished fifth in the U.S. National Championship in the marathon in 1980. I was a good runner. Um, and I was an ectomorph, and I had
So
it.
why'd you do it if you hate running?
Why did I do?
Why'd you run if
Yeah,
you
no, that's a good question. Go back and let's ask my therapist, because because I was good at it, and I got acknowledged for it. I was so good at it, and I would win races, and that's a powerful drug, right? To be the best in your field at something, and I know a lot of people are best in their field at it and don't really enjoy it as much as
Yeah.
you might think they do. So I was able to manage discomfort. Is that a result of my genetics? More than my body composition, my ability to tolerate pain and dig a hole deep for myself that I drag every other racer into it with me and then spit them out the back?
Yeah.
I don't know. Or is it pissing off my father? Is it to appease my mother? I mean, there are a lot of these things that we do in life that you probably have to dig pretty deeply to go, why would you choose to do that if it's not fun?
Yeah, yeah. So back to this whole thing, because like I look at you, I see, you're sharp, you have high energy, good muscle mass. So again, it's not genetics. You're saying you say you're an ectomorph.
Yeah, it's a little bit genetics. Okay, so I'm not a mesomorph I'm not an endomorph. I'm not trending toward having excess body fat all the time. But I'm also, as an ectomorph, I might be 138 pounds or 142 pounds if I didn't lift weights and I didn't do the things that I do right now. Now, I'd be skinny and I'd look, lean. I'd be vascular and all the other things.
Yeah.
But I like having an extra 20 pounds of muscle that I would not have otherwise had. And I have to work to do that.
So yeah. So what are you doing right now? Do you have a special diet? Is there anything you're supplementing?
Yeah, so I've written several books on the ketogenic diet, on intermittent fasting, on carnivore principles. So I still do that. I live carnivore-ish. I have a meat-centric diet, but I eat plants and a little bit of fruit. I typically eat twice a day, so I fast until noon or 1 o'clock. I work out in the morning fasted. I only lift twice a week, as I said, unless I'm doing legs. I separate a leg day. Again, because I'm an ectomorph and I'm an ex-runner, I feel like I have to focus on some kind of leg strength. I mean, otherwise on the internet they'll say, "Do you even do legs, bro?" Or
Yeah.
must have skipped leg day or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I heard legs are important though.
no, great. I mean, it's another metric in this longevity decathlon that we talk about is leg strength. I mean, if you lose leg strength, once you stop moving, you start dying. Full stop. So you got to find ways to move throughout your life, and that means taking care of your feet, wearing the right kind of footwear, walking barefoot as often as possible, doing a lot of leg stuff and balance stuff because you want to maintain that strength and that balance. Look, longevity is nothing. You live to 130, 140, 150, I don't care. But if you don't have the quality of life to go along with it, what's the point?
Yeah.
And so the two things that define the quality of life for me are cognition, access to memory and thought, being able to have a conversation with somebody, communication, and mobility. The ability to move around the world and whether it's walk next door to see a neighbor, walk down the street to walk your dog, board a flight and go to Italy and do a walking tour of Italy, whatever it is, mobility is one of the two major definers of quality of life. And once you lose that mobility, that's the start of that decline that we all fear.
So you mentioned footwear.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I've got a shoe company called Paluva, and we make comfortable, fashionable, minimalist shoes. So
Isn't that impossible? Comfortable, fashionable, and minimalist? Like,
bingo. That's we've solved that problem.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was an early adopter of five-toed shoes back in 2007. But there were issues I had with them that I didn't like the styles as much. I didn't like the fact that they weren't as comfortable as I thought they should be. So I started my own company.
Yeah, why are gloves individual and shoes are not? Like, 'cause I never liked mittens as a kid, right? I never understood those things.
Yeah.
So why are we wearing mittens on our feet?
Bingo. I mean, that's my big challenge. How do I convince the world that we should not be wearing oven mitts on our feet? We should be wearing gloves on our feet. And feet, as I said earlier on, feet need to feel the ground underneath. So anytime you wear a thick soled shoe, you lose that input. the 200,000 nerve endings that are in the bottoms of your feet that are trying to inform the brain of exactly how to organize the kinetic chain from the bottoms of the feet up through the ankles, up through the knees. So, you step on a cobblestone or something and the brain already, by the time you weight that forward foot, the brain goes, oh, I know exactly how much to bend the arch around this rock, how much to allow the toes to relax backward or forward,
Yeah.
how much to roll the ankle outward so I don't put pressure on my knee, how deeply to bend my knee to absorb some of the shock, et cetera, et cetera. And without that information, you're wearing thick, padded cushioned shoes with a raised heel. The brain goes, I don't know, this is how we do it.
I mean, a flat world did not exist
No,
anywhere.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And so as a purveyor of these minimalist shoes, we look for uneven surfaces. I say walk on cobblestones and rocks and boulders, whatever you can, because every step you take is strengthening and realigning and making your feet more resilient.
That's why I love going on the beach barefoot. 'Cause
Yeah.
I feel like, a lot of different,
Yeah. And
terrain.
feet want to splay. And if you've ever run, like sprinted down the beach at low tide in the wet sand and gone back and look at your footprint,
Mhm.
that's the widest your foot will ever be. It wants to splay outwardly. And then what do? We encase our shoes, our feet in these narrow shoes where we scrunch the big toe against the other toes.
Yeah, you see people's feet start to,
Oh,
like,
horrible. And so I see disfigured feet all day long.
yeah.
83% of Americans complain of foot pain, according to the American Podiatric Association.
So I have flat feet.
Yeah. No,
What
you
can
don't.
I do?
You don't have flat feet. You have feet. You have perfect feet. You're born with perfect feet for your body.
That's what
So
my mom told me. I was
no, no, no.
surprised.
Yeah, yeah. So with flat feet, it's just it's two ways to describe it. One is your arches don't have a curve in them; they look kind of flat. Okay, that's a physical description of them. But the other, I think, term we use for flat feet is that they're not strong. Your arches have lost their tension. They've lost their strength, mostly because you've been wearing arch-supported shoes your whole life, unburdening the arch of having to do any work. Thinking you're doing yourself a favor, by the way, by unburdening the arch. So there's an entire industry built around arch
I
support.
mean, I have custom orthotics in here right now.
I was get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because all you're doing, it's like saying, I want bigger biceps. Is there a brace I can wear to the gym so I don't have to work my biceps when I do curls? You want strong arches, and the only way to get strong arches and strong toes and every other intrinsic muscle in the foot is to work them. And so going barefoot as much as you can, walking barefoot upstairs, a great way to do that, where you're just on your metatarsal on the front part of your foot. And you should be able to get rid of your orthotics. I mean, one of the reasons I had to quit running was I was injured as a result of the thick running shoes I was wearing. And I was running 100 miles a week for 7 years, and I got knee problems. And so the podiatrist said, oh, that's your pronation from your shoes.
Yeah.
So we'll give you an arch support, a hard, rigid arch support. That'll prevent your pronation. Well, feet are supposed to pronate. So when you prevent my pronation, and because I wasn't running barefoot, I was running in thick shoes, my knee pain went away. But then it just went up to my hip. So the next weakest link up the kinetic chain, got affected. It's like putting a shim in all these different areas and going, okay, I think we fixed it now. No, you made it worse. And the pain goes away for a little bit, but now you've exacerbated the problem throughout the kinetic chain, where your best solution is to go barefoot or wear minimalist shoes, ideally a 5-toed minimalist shoe, reacquire that strength and that resilience that your feet had when you were born. And no offense to your parents, but they probably put cute little shoes on you that you wore to school, and over the years messed your feet up.
Wow. So do you wear those to weddings?
Weddings and funerals. These are,
Right.
no, totally. In fact, that's the line I use about this particular style. This is a leather lace.
It's super cool.
But we have, I have a desert boot, which goes great with jeans. We have trainers. I've the Strand ATR is an off-road shoe. So I have ruckers using, like, you know what rucking is?
Yeah.
Okay. And these guys are
Well,
just living,
explain
with
it. Yeah, sorry.
hiking with a backpack, right? So, and some of the guys who have the rucking companies that provide the equipment only ruck in paluvas because they want the ground feel. They want to feel every stone they step on, every divot, every hole, every stick. They want to feel it. That's a good feeling under your feet, as opposed to wearing thick hiking boots and, misstepping sideways on a tilted rock. And then because your ankle can't roll and the feet don't know what's going on, throw your knee out.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Are those custom?
No,
Oh.
these are no, we're online. It's paluva.com, and
Yeah.
we have, tens of thousands of customers that are very, very happy with what's going on.
Cool. I can't wait to try them out.
Yep.
I'd love to ditch my orthotics now. So are we overcomplicating biohacking? I mean, the caveman already had the blueprint, right?
Yes, this is the irony of what's happened in this industry. Ancestral health, which started about 20 years ago, and this event that we're at right now, was one of the first events that brought everybody together in that world. I was one of the original, founders, OGs of that space. And for the first couple of years, it was great. Everyone was looking at ways to mimic natural behaviors and in the context of a modern environment. Then it's kind of became as the tech guys came in, it became where are the shortcuts, where are the hacks. The term hack is not it's a pejorative term. It's like, how do I circumvent the right way or the regular way of accessing a system? So a biohack is a way of looking for a shortcut. When in reality, what we should be doing is we should be investing in long-term health. I call biohacking the day trading of health. It's like, when you're trying to build wealth, you don't day trade, you invest, you do your research, you invest long-term, you have a strategy, you organize your life around that strategy, you do things methodically on a daily basis. Day trading is like, okay, I think I know where the buyers and sellers are sitting. I'm going to enter today and I'm going to get out tomorrow and hopefully I'll make money off them. There'll be no investment because I'm not investing in the company. I'm just trying to extract money from other people. So day trading and biohacking have this, biohacking is like, okay, I don't want to really do the work. I don't want to walk an hour and a half every day. If I can put on a cold press compress thing that gives me the effect of 45 minutes of walking in 10 minutes, or if I don't like lifting that much, so if I put on the pressure cuffs and the blood restriction things, I don't want to really configure my diet the way I know I should. So I'm going to activate brown fat by sitting in a cold plunge or going in a cryogenic chair. All of these things, which are referred to as hacks, are useless if you haven't covered the basics. The basics are get your diet right, eat plants and animals, eat natural. Reverse your sedentary pattern. I think everybody knows that. Get moving around a lot. Lift weights once in a while. Get your sleep right. I think everybody in the biohacking community knows this. I don't wear sleep trackers because I know how I slept. I don't need a device to tell me, oh, dude, you didn't sleep very well last night. I think I did. Because I don't wear the devices because I think bad data is worse than no data. And my life operates and how I've gotten to where I am right now on one principle. How do I feel? And if I feel strong today, I'll work out hard. If I don't feel strong, I'll take a day off. If I start a workout and it starts to fall apart, I'll back off and I'll say, save it for tomorrow. If I'm finished eating and I'm no longer hungry for the next bite, I'll stop eating. I won't go, oh, well, I'm not full yet, so there must still be room. What I teach and the main principle of what I've done over the last, 30 years is I teach people to be intuitive about their own body. I'm going to give you the education on how your body works and what to look for, but then I want you to be intuitive. I don't want you to depend on a device to say, well, my HRV thing says I shouldn't work out today, or my HRV thing says, well, today's the day to go. I have premature ventricular contractions from my years of running. I ruined my heart from all the running I did. I didn't ruin it, but it's compromised. When I put on an HRV monitor, because I get skipped beats, the HRV thinks, oh man, dude, you are ready to roll, and a doctor would say, don't do anything today.
Yeah.
So, we have all of these devices that we're relying on now.
But
And-
go ahead, sorry.
no, I'm the methylene blue is the latest one,
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's a dye used for, in some dire situations. And now we're all of a sudden using it as a hack.
Yeah, cure all, right?
Yeah.
So I love data though, to a certain degree, right? Because you look at things and I think you get education through data. And, when you look at like, let's say blood testing and things like that, like I'm a big proponent of testing because, you want to see how you're aging and how you're going through life, right? Because for instance, like recently I had like a high A1C and I'm a healthy guy, work out, whatever, and I feel great all the time. So why do I have a high A1C? Well, maybe I'm a little too many carbs, maybe, it's hereditary or whatever. So I think to a certain degree, don't you believe that some data is good to at least educate you or push you in the direction of better health?
I would agree. And I would say that most of those tests have existed for 40 or 50 years. So the blood work that you did to show your A1C, that's been around for a long time. So there's nothing new there. And I get my blood work done every once in a while. So, that's prudent. But some of the other testing that we do, is probably,
What's bullshit?
yeah, there's like the full body scan is a questionable test. I'm at my age, I have shadows on my bones and I have all kinds of stuff going on. And, one of the things that is an issue is problematic with people who get these scans is the amount of stress induced by, oh, I saw something here that we maybe need to biopsy, or I saw something over here. In most cases, they don't need biopsy. It's just, a normal part of growth. Now, every once in a while, those scans will catch something. But the question really is, could that be caught with a blood test? And is it even worth the, the indignity of worrying for, 2 weeks before
The results are
the results are back?
That's interesting. So, we're talking about longevity here and biohacking and stuff. So is modern longevity advice just primal wisdom or rebranded for profit?
It's rebranded for profit for 100%. I mean, the people say, God, I did a podcast with Dave Asprey the other day, and I said, Dave, I know you want to live to 160, and he goes, no, 180. He corrected me. I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
whatever. I said, look, if I get to 90 plus and I've had some good years, I'm fine with it. I mean, what gives life meaning is the finiteness of it.
that's true.
I mean, people need a reason to get up every day. I can't imagine living forever. And then, like, why do I wait? Why do I get out of bed in the morning?
Mm.
What am I like to learn something new? First of all, AI is going to take all the need to learn stuff away. It's almost like, the phone book, the Einstein quote about I don't need to know my own phone number because it's in the phone book.
Yeah.
I can look it up. Well, that's been morphed into, I'm not even sure what general knowledge is going to be for the human in 5
Well,
years.
it's funny that you say that because, studies are showing that because we're relying less on being able to remember and things like that, that they're, over even over the last thousands of years, there's been atrophy in our brain.
Yes.
Because, in society, you specialize in one thing and I specialize in something else. So therefore, I don't need so much capacity in my brain to be able to do things because, the brain sucks a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Right. And that fear is now with like AI and things like that. Like I can remember my parents' phone number from when I was 5, but I can't tell you what my phone number is from today.
There. Same, by the way.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a good point you're making that. So you've been called the godfather of ancestral health. What are biohackers getting dead wrong about primal living?
I think it's back to this idea that there are some shortcuts that are valuable that are going to add multiple years to your lifestyle. Maybe stem cells will show themselves as, a legitimate way of extending life appreciably, or at least organ reserve. Maybe, God forbid, genetic engineering, allows for some extension there. But given the current configuration of the health system and what's available, you just can't beat the ancestral behavioral patterns that we've adopted in this world. That is eating plants and animals, avoiding processed foods, moving around a lot at a low level of activity throughout the day, lifting heavy weights once or twice a week, sprinting once in a while, getting plenty of sleep, getting sunshine, playing, and avoiding traumatic experiences.
Sounds like everything's free.
Everything is free, man.
I don't know. It sounds like a scam going on here.
Well, I find a little bit of a cognitive dissonance showing up at an event like this because I have, talked about the availability. Like everyone has this available to them if they're just willing to take on the education and then a little bit of discipline to reconfigure their habits. Do you have to spend a lot of money to engage in any of this? The early days, it was, I can't be paleo because I have to spend a lot of money on grass-fed steak. Well, you don't even have to do that, first of all. And second of all, if you develop metabolic flexibility, you don't need as much food as you thought you needed. So your requirement for calories comes down way down anyway. So it still fits into anyone's budget. So, the look, I have a great life. I have a lot of money. I travel well. And if somebody said, well, what would happen if you had like 10x the money you have right now, what would you do differently, or 10x less than you have now? Well, I'd wake up in the morning at the same time. I'd have the same cup of coffee. I'd do the same crossword puzzles. I'd go to the same gym and lift weights with the same people I live with. I'd paddle. I'd ride a fat bike on the beach. I love my kids just as much as I do now. I'd enjoy a hike just as much as a billionaire or a pauper. I mean, it's like All of those things are what give life meaning, and that's up to you to bring to the table. It's not like you're gonna acquire happiness or contentment or fulfillment through some biohack.
You know, it's interesting because I think we're looking for that, right? Like we wouldn't like I think it's a little depressing to say, yeah, we can still do the same things we did a billion years ago and nothing's going to change because we're always looking for that reason that society's advancing or that we are going to have better longevity or because, like your grandparents didn't live as long because of this and now we're going to live longer. So, that's what I'm saying. So we're just like fucking drinking the Kool-Aid.
Pretty much. Look, I mean, I go into a room and I see 8 people who are all together and all friends, all on their devices, all on their phones, texting somebody or checking Instagram or posting something or whatever. I mean, we've lost one of the main things that makes us human, which is this intimate connection that we have looking each other in the eye and having conversation. And so if you talk to my buddy Dan Buettner, who's my next door neighbor in the building I live in, the Blue Zones guy, and he'll say, look, community is one of the more important aspects of longevity. So all the stuff you're doing in the lab and all the stuff you're doing with the equipment and all of the methylene blue and the glasses and the cryogenic chambers and the culturally appropriated inebriation experiences,
Yeah.
they don't mean anything if you're not happy. And the happiness is up to you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we live in a tough world to be happy, I think. I don't believe that, but that's a narrative that we keep hearing, right?
You don't believe?
I don't believe that we live in a world that's unhappy, but
Okay.
I hear this, and we're all living in this, parasympathetic versus sympathetic mode, and
Yeah.
the whole world's coming down, and Trump's ruining the country, and we've got toxins everywhere, and I believe that we're living in the best times ever, personally, right? Because not only can we do what our ancestors did, but we also have data behind it, and I feel like almost every person has a goddamn iPhone, which and plumbing and a toilet in their house. It's like pretty good living.
No, it doesn't. But again, to your point, it doesn't take a lot of money to cover all the basic needs, right? A cell phone, a laptop, a big screen TV, a roof over your head, enough food in your belly, a means of transportation, and clothing, and you're set. And that's a $30,000 a year expense, if that. And everything else is just a bigger house, a better car, better transportation, more expensive clothes, the bags, fine bottles of wine. But it's all the same. It's all going to the same place.
Yeah.
So when I say the rest is up to you, the rest is up to you. You still love your kids a lot as much as possible. No matter how much money you have, you love your kids. You still appreciate a hike in nature as much as you ever would, no matter how much money you have. You probably appreciate it more if you have less money,
You do.
because the more money you have, the more
Ability improves.
expectations you have, and now you're going to go do Everest, and you're going to die on Everest because of a line going to the top.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, these people died in a helicopter crash 2 days ago because they had the money to take a helicopter crash, across the Hudson. And you're right. I mean, I moved to Florida when I was 30, and I did an experiment because I'm kind of crazy like you. And I said, let me live on $100 a day. And that included my rent and everything.
Yeah.
Right? Best fucking year of my life.
Yeah.
Right? $100 a day. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
$33,600. And I didn't take a vacation, but I lived in Miami.
Yeah.
Right? I had the beach.
You're on a vacation.
Sort of vacation, right? And I found that life was so simple, so satisfying, and I was still able to buy healthy food and still go out and do whatever. And if anything more, I had so much more free time because I wasn't like a slave to something or something else.
Right.
And listen, I understand that that's like an experiment and it's not possible for everybody. I didn't have kids, I didn't have a wife, I didn't have aging parents at the time they needed to take care of. But I like where you're coming from with this stuff because I think we lose the basics and the fundamentals. And we listen to marketers too much. So let's see here. If you had to throw out 90% of biohacks, what are the 3 primal hacks that you would keep for longevity?
3 primal hacks. I keep sauna.
Why?
Well, I mean, if I have to keep something,
Mhm.
I could live without them, but I have to keep
Yep.
them. Yeah.
But why? What
Well,
about sauna?
yeah, so sauna has enough data behind it to suggest that it's beneficial in terms of, cardiovascular health, skin health, overall well-being, mood elevation, longevity. There's enough
Yeah.
data behind that. I'm not even sure what the other two would be. Give me some examples of hacks that you think of.
I mean, listen, you know, at the end of the day, I don't even know if they're hacks, but you say, you know, walking on the beach, whatever these things are. I felt like you've put out a lot of different things. So what would be your top?
Yeah, but walking is not a hack. Walking is a prerequisite for living.
Yeah.
So it's not a hack. I mean,
Okay.
when we're talking about hacks, we're talking about walking down the aisles of this expo and seeing pills and potions and headbands and eye things and hyperbaric chambers and all this other stuff that may or may not have any benefit.
Yeah.
Certainly don't have any benefit if you haven't covered the basics first.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, listen, I think that's a big part of this channel is we always talk about covering the basics because I think I think there are some longevity products and hacks that will help. We talk about stem cells, things like that. I think there's room for that in this world. But if you're not doing the basics, like you said, the blue zone stuff,
Yeah.
right? I think you're shit out of luck. How do I sit on my couch and burn fat?
You reconfigure your diet so you're metabolically flexible.
Uh-huh.
You train your body through your diet to extract energy from your own stored body fat at rest. And it's not rocket science, it's bioscience, but it's basically shifting your dependency on carbohydrates back to depending on stored body fat for your main source of fuel. And you have to prompt that in the body. You have to make the body want to do that. We have access to so many calories throughout the day, so much of which is carbs, that the temptation is to reload carbs every couple of hours, multiple times a day. And because carbs get stored as fat, and your A1C was high, you have high carbs, raise insulin. Insulin takes carbs out of storage, puts it in glycogen in the muscles, but if there's no room, it goes to the fat stores. But insulin also locks fat in the fat storage. So as long as you continue to eat carbohydrates in that manner, you can't even get the fat out of storage to burn it. You just get hungry again. And 90% of the population operates in that mode.
So is that the hack there? Cut the carbs down?
Yeah.
Right? I agree with you on the not eating. Like I fast. I think we're like probably on the same schedule. And I think we're both probably like same type of body style or whatever. And, I haven't eaten probably since because I flew in this and that, probably since like 6 o'clock yesterday. I'm not even thinking about food. And if anything, I feel more energized.
Yeah.
I'm on 3 hours of sleep right now.
Yeah.
Right? So
Well, that's not sustainable, by the way.
well, this is just today, but like,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is like I have to remind myself to eat. So all I'm saying is I'm validating what you're saying is not bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty easy to get into that state.
Yeah, and I mean, again, hunger is the thing that derails everybody. And isn't it ironic that you get to a point where hunger is so not running your life, you're so not tethered to hunger that you have to think, not only do I need to eat, but this one meal that I have time to eat, am I eating enough? Because I got tomorrow and the next day and the next day.